All right, all right, all right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Well Encounter. This is June the
Fifth.
25th, 2020. And as always, we're so glad to have you all here with us because remember, hashtag the well.
Is you.
That's right. And so this is Pastor Ramon and our executive pastor
Javon Bender or JoJo.
and our Pastor Ray, either way. And so we're just glad to have you guys. Listen, tonight we've been really trying to just focus on what's happening with the racial tension, the Black Lives Matter movement, COVID-19. All of that has affected all of us in some sort of way. And so tonight we want to dive even more into that. But tonight we really wanted to bring you the voices of the youth and those who work with the youth. And so tonight we've got a panel like none other. We're going to hear from the voices of our present and the future. Because I really do believe that young people are the now, because those are the ones who are leading this protest, and they are also the voices that will carry us into the future. And so, we want you to take a moment, share, like this post,
And share it.
and send it to folks in your groups. If you're on YouTube, send the link to text message to your friends that you think should be a part of this conversation.
DM it. Do everything you gotta do. Do everything you gotta do to get it out there.
That's right. And we want to give a big shout out to Amplify Network as always for letting us use their platform. We're in partnership with them, and we could not do this as well as we do it without them. And it's beautiful to just have partnerships nowadays in time, right?
It is definitely.
So I'm going to do a quick word of prayer, and then we'll bring in our illustrious, awesome panelists.
Come on, hype them up.
So as I'm doing this again, you can take the time to just like this and share it with as many folks as you can. We really want to make sure that our content is spreading all over to bring some healing and to bring some love and to bring some peace, passion,
Purpose, and power.
to everyone. Those are our 5 P's. And promise.
You're right.
So let's pray. Gracious God, we are just so grateful that you allow us to use a platform to expand your voice. God, we know you could do everything that you do by yourself, but we're just grateful that you do allow us the room to do a little something for you. And so, God, we ask that this program and this encounter reach as many people as you would have it reach, and that everybody that it does reach, you allow it to manifest in their hearts the way that you need them to receive this message. And so, God, allow us to have a great conversation tonight. Allow us to heed to your word and your will and your way, and allow us to progress as much as we possibly can for your kingdom's sake. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Well, let's bring in our illustrious panel of guests.
We talking to the youth. We didn't see. We didn't want like people to tell us what the youth wanted to say. We wanted the youth to tell y'all what they wanted to say. So we have two. We have a graduated senior and a sophomore. Erica Diamond, can you introduce yourself?
Okay. Okay, I'll go first. My name is Erica Reynolds. As Javon said, I'm a 2020 senior, and I am the Director of Communications for the Our Lives Matter Team Campaign. And in the fall, I'll be
You said you're a director of
the
communications.
Director
You
of
didn't tell me.
Communications. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm
Go ahead, darling.
Diamond Fowler. I am a 11th grader at KIPP DC, and I am the vice president of the OLM campaign.
And
Oh.
what is OLM?
Eric, you want to say?
The Vice President.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
OLM is a campaign that was created by Minister LeVar based on the Trayvon Martin, right? Yes, and basically it's a campaign for the youth, for us to bring out our vision and our voice of what is going on about our lives and how we can do better as a youth community to help better the future and what's going on now. So
That's what's up.
And since she since she already kind of slightly introduced my big brother up there, who I love because he is one of my brothers. This phenomenal amazing, talented, gifted, motivated, inspiring, awesome, blessed king in the top. Why don't you go ahead and take a quick second and introduce yourself, sir?
Good evening,
Yeah.
everybody. LeVar Jones here. I am honored to serve as the Minister of Youth and Young Adults at the New Macedonia Baptist Church in Southeast DC, and also as the founder and senior advisor of the Our Lives Matter Teen Campaign that these wonderful young ladies are leading, and I just get the opportunity to walk alongside them as we get platform and space for teen voice in our city.
Cool. So I just again want to thank everybody for being on. We're just going to simply have a conversation, and we are just excited that we have the people on that will have the conversation with us. So we're going to start with some of the young people who are on, both Erica and Diamond. And I'm scrolling through my list of questions here to make sure.
I'll start.
There you go.
What has life been like during COVID? Tell me your life
I'll go
during
first.
COVID, because when I was in school, I ain't had none of these problems. We was going to school. Tell me what life was like doing. Tell me what life is like during COVID for you guys.
COVID, Corona 19, I don't know what they call it now, but it's been very stressful, honestly. I know I'm a homebody, but I also like nature. So I love to be outside a lot. So when my school said, or my mom, I was like 3 months, stay in the house. I was like, that's not for me. So I just go out on the porch. I sit there. I just chill. I mean, it's been very stressful, honestly. The distance learning has been not so much fun. I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
very much harder than being inside of the classroom with like 20 other students, because being over the phone or Zoom calls, it doesn't really help a lot, because my school, they didn't have Zooms for us at all. So it was basically us learning on ourselves. So it was really stressful for me. Stressful end of the year.
Erica, you gonna answer that? You gonna answer that?
Yeah, well, I agree with Diamond. I like to be outside as well. I mean, being at home all the time has had its ups and downs, but other than that, I've been hanging with family. I mean, a lot of my cousins have been here or staying with us, so that's been fun. But I found like other hobbies to keep myself busy.
That makes sense. So it's so it's so interesting. You say be careful what you ask for, because in my day in school, we would have almost wished to be out of school for this amount of time. Like
Yeah.
I just don't feel like man, it's
Yeah.
like waking up no more like a extended summer break. Like you get 6 months you get a 5 month summer break, baby, wouldn't have had no complaints. But now look at the circumstances in which it came, you're like, wait, I guess that wasn't as all it was cracked up to be, because I really don't
Right.
want to be in school right now going through all this. I mean, and then you didn't, you don't look at, oh, I ain't gonna have no prom. Like, what about that? Like, I don't know if any, what about not having a graduation for you, Erica? How did that feel? I know you said you are homeschooled, but you still
Right.
have a formal graduation, and you had to do one like with a social distancing for graduation. So tell me, like, how did you feel about that?
Well, at first, my graduation was going to be on Zoom, but like a week before the date, they changed it so that we could go to actually have a ceremony. So it was fun. It was good that we actually I actually got a chance to walk up and get my diploma. But the thing that I did
Mm-hmm.
miss was like a prom. So we kind of did like a mini one in my backyard. It was still special
Oh,
because, we set up lights and everything, but it's obviously not the same
okay.
as being in a real
That is so
setting.
cute.
You gotta make the best of what you got, right? You gotta
That
make the
that
best of what
is
you
so
got.
cute.
Somebody online said it's mentally, it is stressful. Mentally, it is just stressful. Just not even like, the distance. You would think that like being in a house for 3 months, that should bring you some peace. But it was all this
Yeah.
anxiety, worry. Like you're like, I'm
Yeah.
at home. I ain't got nothing to worry about. We just gonna chill in the house. It wasn't like there was like I remember I coined the phrase. I use this a lot. I was like, when the world opens back up, like I just couldn't wait for the world to
Yeah,
open
yeah,
back
yeah,
up.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
Ramon, you want to go to the next question?
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask actually just before we move forward. So, I know that COVID was the first reason, the pandemic. Erica, Diamond, and LeVar, we'll get you in here in a second too. But I guess all three of you actually, have any of you all been affected, personally by COVID? Has there been anyone in your family or your friendship circle that you've just seen go through COVID or been,
Or someone
had to
in their
deal with
family
COVID? Or
had it.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I actually have my former African teacher, Mr. Deal. LeVar also
Why did
knows
you have
him
to
as
do that
well.
comically?
Because he's everything. Like his presence, his knowledge, it's just everything to me. So when the school I went to last year, we had this group chat, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, Diamond, Mr. Deal is in the hospital for COVID." I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" I was like,
mm,
"Don't play like this. This is an old man." I was like, "He is a legend. Like he can't go. Not by this." I was like, "This is not his time to go." So I was really hurt by that, but one of our friends, they saw him outside enjoying the world and the nature on his front porch because she lives near him. I was like, okay, so that means he's safe, he's great, he didn't test positive, or I guess I don't know about this whole healing thing or whatever the cure for is, but I know that he's doing well, and that
Gotcha.
kind of frightened me. It really did scare me for a minute.
But that was
So
the moment that it hit home, Diamond.
yes,
yeah.
I was pretty
What
blessed
What
though.
about you?
I don't know anybody personally who has had the virus, but aside from the virus, I know like a lot of my friends are dealing with mental health issues from being at home for such a long period of time.
Explain that, please, 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 please elaborate on that a little bit. I love it.
Well,
So you saying you just know some of your friends are dealing with mental health issues from being at home for so long. Please,
yeah,
please break
like
that down for me.
okay, so I mean, some of my friends. I mean, when you're outside, it's different. Like when you can go outside, it's different. Like when you're forced to stay at home, I feel like you have a different mindset because you also don't really know when you can like get out. So I guess the fact that they don't know when this whole thing is going to be over is kind of stressful because you don't have anything to look forward to.
So and it's so funny you are interesting that you're bringing it up because later on, my good friend Jocelyn Stevenson will be on. She works with mental health, and she's a family therapist, and so she will be talking a lot about that. So you all, I hope that once you all link off, that you'll just kind of just continue to watch and continue to interact because she's actually listening to you all now, and she's going to share a good bit about just about what some of the practices we can do and how we can be mindful of our mental health during this whole season. And so, just want to take a quick second to make sure that everybody goes. If you're watching, all of our folks from home, share this with your people. Share this as much as you can so that people can interact. And if you're on, feel free to comment and interact with us. As so many of you have already kind of started doing.
So let's jump into some hard stuff real quick, okay? Let's go do it. I'm gonna ask this question first, and then I want to come back to the obvious ones. What does your family think about the police right now, or what do you think about the police right now?
Before you answer though, let's just make sure you guys have heard all three names: Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor,
They
and
are part of all Our Lives Matter. They're already activists.
yeah. But I mean, listen, I just want to make sure that we're clear so people all that are watching as well are kind of up to date too. And because of that, I think is why you always want to spell your question out.
Gotcha. Can y'all answer the question, please?
Yes. How I personally feel on my family about police. The police now, actually, my grandmother and I, we were having a conversation because we have tons of conversations, and she's always getting on me about, Dom, you need to be more interactive with all this stuff going on in the community. So we have many, many, many conversations about it. And she was explaining to me how when back in her day, she feels that it's a repeat of what's going on now, but she feels like that we're actually doing something to prevent it. Like we're actually speaking up and we're actually doing things actively to show
Mm.
that we're not playing around. Look here, we bleed the same blood. Even though we are two different colors, that means nothing. That means absolutely
Mm-hmm.
nothing. We had the same Lord. Like all that Buddhist, I don't care. We bleed the same blood. We have the same Lord. Two different colors. That's the only thing different about us is the color of our skin, not the knowledge, not
Mm-hmm.
anything else.
Oh,
So
go off, Diamond. Tell him, Diamond.
like,
Right.
Go on.
like I really don't
Period.
like that. Like all that racism stuff. Once I learned more about racism and politics and Donald Trump and the presidents and all that type of stuff, I kind of got more furious and furious about it because me at 16 now, I feel like I know I haven't personally experienced police brutality or anything, but to see that my peers and young black men and women are experiencing it at such a young age, it's not okay at all. And I feel that this needs to be put to a stop. Like it needs to not even slow down, but it just doesn't need to be at that level that they're at right now. Like, what do you need to kill for? Killing is not the first thing that you do. It's not shoot first, ask questions later. It's ask questions now, do later. And yeah.
Diamond, thank you for your passion. I love it. Like that. You about to
Right.
make me go out here and start. I'm about to march now. I love it. I love it. I love to see some of the youth so riled up. Erica, do you want to go ahead and expound on that too?
Yeah, I was gonna say being in OLM has definitely helped like break down how like our feelings and how we feel about everything that's going on right now. So I think definitely we need to rise up, like Diamond was saying, and just go past what's go past like the color of our skin because there's way more to everyone than police brutality and everything that's going on. So yeah, I think my
So
family to answer the question oh sorry.
no, go
Oh
ahead, please.
yeah, to answer the question, my family is definitely aware and like we definitely were trying to stop everything that's going on, like by protesting and supporting black businesses and all that.
Yeah, so Minister LeVar, I want to bring you in with this. These are two of your young people that you are mentoring, that you're ministering to, and they reference OLM a lot. And so, can you just speak to um, how does OLM, how is it relevant even today? And I guess my question really, what I'm trying to say is, how is it relevant then, and how is it relevant now?
Yeah, so we started, OLM really started, conversations around it started with the murder of Trayvon Martin, and it really kicked off after the August 2014 murder of Mike Brown in Ferguson. And one of our volunteers at the time at the Boys and Girls Club, we were having a conversation. She said, "We got to do something here." So it started off as a town hall event that we had MLK Day 2015. And we planned for an event to address the issue of the relationship between Black youth and law enforcement. We wanted to figure out at that point, we need to provide a middle ground. We wanted to make sure that our officers saw our young people for who they are and then vice versa, so that we could, one, reduce and end the killing of Black youth, Black men, Black women, but also to create spaces for them to exist and to talk and to see each other for who they were. We didn't plan anything beyond the event, but a volunteer for the event came up to me afterwards and was like, "Oh, this is great." He said, "What's next?" I don't know. We didn't plan anything beyond the event. And so 6 years later, um, out of necessity, we've had to maintain creating a platform. OLM has always been about creating a platform for young people to have voice, to be able to understand the issues that are facing them and to teach them, and not even to teach them, but to also almost like you get wine out of a grape, just sort of press out of them the innate ability to lead, to raise their voice, to weaponize their voice against social injustice. And these young people have traveled all across the country: Dallas, Baltimore, Richmond, Birmingham, the Bay Area, encouraging and empowering other young people to do the same. And so, to answer your question, Ramon, it's relevant then and it's relevant now because it has always been the youth voice in movements of civil rights all the way back to the 60s, the Birmingham Children's Campaign. It's always been the youth voice, the Greensboro Four. It's always been the youth voice that has made the difference in pushing forward this agenda, relieving this country from the pain and the pressure of systemic racism and oppression. I can say more if you like.
Are we froze? Are we there? Okay,
Good.
No, listen, welcome to the age of technology. No, you've done such a great job in the work that you've done, and you were director over the Boys and Girls Club for such a long time. It's just amazing to see the way that you have mobilized the young people to, I think, have the confidence in themselves, and then to try to build the confidence in others, and then to build their community. And that's that you've just done such tremendous work on the ground. And so we don't always honor the folks who are doing the groundwork. And so I honor you for the work that you've done. I want to turn back to our young ladies. Of course. And so with Erica and Diamond, we talked a little bit about the police, and we talked about the imagery there. There's a lot of talk about systematic racism right now. And there are a lot of folks that don't understand what systematic racism is. So let me just ask the question first. Do you all have your own interpretation and idea of what systematic racism even is? And if you can, what does that look like to you?
Systematic.
Well, to me, I think people get, well, not people, even me, get systematic and systemic racism mixed up. But I think systematic racism means racism that's dated back to like 300 years ago, because I mean, as we all know, the system wasn't created to protect us. So it's kind of like saying why like the stereotype is black people can't swim. Well, it's like, well, black people weren't allowed to swim with other people in the first place, or to be in pools in the first place. So that stereotype is like, that's kind of like an example of systematic racism.
Yeah. Do you all?
What is it? Is there a difference between systematic and systemic? Because I thought that would be like pecan and pecan.
Yeah, it's the same. It really is the same. And I think to Erica's point, it really is, something that is rooted in the industries, the institutions of our country, whether it be something, as low level as the swimming pool or a water fountain, and as high level as banking and housing, that for so long, systemically, intentionally, we were left and cut out. So it was literally built to the fabric of our country. And so you don't just erase that away. Like, you remember, like, I'm aging myself now. You remember we had the Etch-a-Sketch, so you could draw a line with the Etch-a-Sketch, and then if you messed up, it was easy to erase it. All you had to do was shake it. Systemic racism doesn't just walk away because you shake it or because you march for 2 weeks. There's got to be, a consistent push to change 400 years of what has been built into the fabric of this country.
And so, Erica, you just graduated, correct?
Yes, I did.
Do you think that, can you envision a world moving forward where we don't have racism anymore? Do you think there'll ever come a time when we won't have racism anymore?
I think the more we push and fight, it might happen, but it's obviously going to take time and dedication to work. Like it might not be in the next 5 months. It could be in the next like 10 years, but in the future, there's a possibility that could.
Yeah. And Diamond, do you see racism happening now, even at your age? I mean, you're a sophomore, correct? Going
Junior.
into junior year?
Yep.
Junior. So you're junior, and how do you see, like, is this new for you? Like, before all this happened, did you see it? Is it brand new for you? You know, where are you at in terms of learning about racism?
For me, I feel like that I don't really want to say that I'm still learning it. I feel like because as us as a full community, I feel like that I'm experiencing it too. Like we're all trying to get past this and it's like we can't. So I wouldn't say that I'm just learning it because I feel like we've all been experiencing it from birth, from since our ancestors, from all over. So a world without racism, hey, might be a change to come someday. But like Erica said, it will take some time. And it may not happen today, tomorrow, but as long as our community and people around the world continue to keep pushing forward and fighting for this to happen and to not give up and to not just protest for 2 days and then expect for everything to go back to normal, but to keep going and going and going, keep posting, keep signing petitions, keep doing more for ourselves, for the people that is it happening to, for our country, for our community. And soon.
Um, so Erica and Diamond, and either one of you all can answer this. When we talk about the case of Ahmaud Arbery, when we talk about the case of George Floyd, when we talk about Breonna Taylor, have you all, just yes or no, have you all seen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And, and walk me through your reaction to to watching those type of videos, seeing those videos happen. You know, we'll start with you, Diamond. What is a junior in high school? What does that feel like to watch a black person murdered and then aired on TV or YouTube or spread around social media? What does that feel like to you to have to watch that over and over and over again?
Um, I could say it's quite scary to me because I feel that the more we see it, the more that it just keeps replaying in my head that this is really happening. This happened to Ahmaud Arbery. This happened to Breonna Taylor. This happened to George Floyd. To see the George Floyd video, very gruesome, very disrespectful, honestly. And I'm actually glad that it was put out so that if that video was never put out, if all these videos of people getting murdered were never put out, rioting and all this looting and the protest, it would have never happened. I feel like it would have never happened if all videos were not posted because we see for ourselves that this is not something that they can cover up anymore because we see it for ourselves. The world sees it for themselves. And although people may, assume or, try to transform their mind, or we don't see that, we see it because it's happening to us. So you can't go past what you're actually seeing. You're just processing your mind that, oh, this is not really happening. No, it's happening, and it has to be stopped. So it's very disrespectful, very.
And Erica, when you watched the video of George Floyd, what were you thinking during those 8 minutes of a video of him being on the ground and the officers being on his neck? What type of emotion goes through your mind when you think about that happening?
Yeah. Honestly, there's so many emotions going through my mind when I saw it, but I didn't even watch the whole 8 minute video. Like I've seen so many clips on social media, and I just kind of skipped by it on purpose because I didn't want to see another black man killed just senselessly by policemen. So honestly, I mean, eventually after seeing it so many times, just on my timeline, I saw the video, but it was just it was hard to watch. Like it was a lot.
Do you all fear the police?
For me, I'm not necessarily scared of them or fearful, but I'm definitely cautious and aware anytime I'm around them.
Yeah, I'll say cautious. Afraid, no. There's any
Yeah.
Good
time that
answer.
I know that I have to stand up for
Good
my
answer.
rights, I have to stand up for my people, my country, my community, my race. No, I would not be afraid. I will stand up and kneel in front of your face. till you know. Wow.
Diamond, I
It's
need
all
you in my corner at any fight. You too, Erica. I need both of y'all. But Diamond, she gonna be TTG like off the break, and I'm ready. I'm ready. I love it. I
I'm
love
ready
the
with
energy.
you.
Like
I'm
we go. When you want to go down there, we go down to Black Lives Matter Plaza anytime. I'm going with you.
you know, and so Diamond, there's a young lady, and I cannot always pronounce her name. LeVar, you might help me with this. The young lady who was a protesting, 19 years old, who was killed during her protesting down
In
south
Florida.
in Florida. Yeah, I cannot remember her name. If you guys remember her name, feel free to type it in the comments if you're watching. Or, but she was heavy on protesting, and they found her a couple of weeks later after some of her major protesting. They found her killed and slain. And so we even see that you can't even protest peacefully in this country right now without the possibility of things happening to you. Diamond, I heard you and I heard your strong voice. How do you feel? How does that make you feel? That even when you're out protesting, that there's still the threat of people who don't understand you and don't understand your black beautifulness, don't understand what you're fighting for, and they want to do harm to you. How does that make you feel?
I was actually hoping that you got to me with that question. With I actually seen that post, and I feel like um the people who are so on for this racism thing, not against it, I feel like they're afraid of our words and they're afraid of our actions. That we're actually doing something now and they don't know how to react to it. So the more that we keep pushing and fighting for our rights and for ourselves and for our community, the more they are afraid and they're scared. Like they're like, wow, they're actually doing something. We have to put a stop to what they're doing. You can't put a stop to us. We're going to keep going no matter how hard you try. So I feel like because she spoke out, which is great that she did, she died for that. So I stand on that. So
Somebody posted her name. I can't pronounce that. I'm not going to mess it
Yeah,
up.
thank you. So Jocelyn, who's on with us, and so it's Olu. Salah. I never totally remember how to say that. And so Jocelyn will be on with us in just a few minutes ago, and I'll ask her. Vanessa says field trip. She's a teacher, and she says field trip to BLM and Plaza. I think she's saying Erica and Diamond. She wants y'all to go with
me.
field trip.
We was going on our field trip.
Yeah.
So and Diamond, like what you said, there was a quote out there that said, "They better be glad we're asking for equality and not seeking revenge." You know, like that. I mean, I'm gonna let that go. Erica, do you have anything else to say? Because I can go into that, but I definitely want to keep this positive and like not throw anger, because we got to be careful how we throw anger, how we display anger, especially to our youth and even just to the people that's watching, so that they'll know this is protesting love, but not protesting anger. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we are angry, we're fired up, but
yes.
it's a lot. It's a lot of emotions to grapple with. It's actually wait and throw around and get. I'm still grappling with it myself.
Yeah. No, and that's why I asked the questions. Listen, we're gonna log our young people off in just a second, and then Sister Jocelyn is gonna hop on with us, and LeVar is gonna remain on with us. I want to give just a few seconds to let Erica and Diamond both. Listen, we're so grateful that you hopped on. We're so grateful that you're as courageous as you are. We're so grateful for your voice. And so as we close out with you all, not close off completely. So guys who are watching, please continue to stay on with us. If you have questions, stay on. But Erica and Diamond, if you had you've got some people who are watching now, and you've got some people who will watch this later. If you had just one thing that you would like to share with the world, and your voice was able to be heard, and you knew that your message might get through to somebody about how we can move forward, what would that sound like coming from each one of you? And we'll start with Erica first, and then Diamond, I'll let you close us out after Erica.
Okay. Thank you for having me as well. I would say definitely continue to speak your truth because your voice is power, especially during this time right now. So we really need everybody to just speak up and for the rights of us because especially during this time, like I said, we need your voice. So definitely speak up. Don't be afraid and don't worry about what other people say because as long as you know what's right, then it will come out. So thank you again.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you guys. I love you. I don't even know y'all, and I love y'all. Okay. See,
Love you.
I need you, Erica. I need you to write me up some papers since you're doing director of communications, and you. I would just call you when it go down. We don't need to tell nobody. We're gonna talk about it on the live, okay? Diamond, I just know who to reach out to. I need, when I got these somebody at my back.
So Diamond, what was your comment? What was your last?
For everybody, not just the older ones, because sorry, old people, the older adults, sorry to say, we are the next generation, and we're going to have as much knowledge as you think that we don't have. So we're going to continue to show our parents and show you guys, the live, that we're going to make a change someday. And to stay strong, don't give up, stay on your word. Like, stand down. Stand down. Because, not stand down, but stay on your ground. That's what I'm trying to say. And stand up.
Stand up.
Stand up. Because
whichever way you say it, do what you said do.
Right. The more that you doubt yourself and you doubt your words and the vision that you're trying to put out, the more that people are going to start to give up with you. You can't give up. Because the more you give up, the more the people behind you is going to follow you, and you have to follow them into the right direction. So stand up, stay on your ground, don't give up, and be strong.
I love you, girl.
I love you, girl. Myself. Y'all are amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I want to do it. Is that a secret thing? I don't know. I'm going to do it
too. Nigel Reynolds is on, says, Erica and Diamond, you all both did great. Brennan, my brother Brennan, who's watching, said, don't be sorry at all. Vanessa said they did great. Evident that they have great mentors in their lives. So listen, the people love you all, and we love you for being here. We're going to go to a quick video, and I know you all are going to log off, and we're going to bring in my friend Jocelyn Stevenson, who's a family therapist, along with my brother. LeVar is going to stay on. Listen, give your parents some love and give them a shout out for being on and for supporting you all the way that they do. And we're going to go to a quick breaking video, and I will see you guys in just a minute. LeVar, I'll see you in just about 2 minutes.
Living in a time that's so unique. Climate changes and disease got me down on my knees. All across the world is lost in pain, looking for the sunshine through the rain. What help us find a way? It's too hot bright day. Gotta find a way to escape. Wanna party all night when this goes away. Let us unite. Bring us love, bring us peace, the light. Through the night, we will do it together. We'll find a cure on the better. Eradicate it forever. Let us all work together. We all have a role we have to play. Yeah. Together we can make a better way. Until till this virus goes away. They tell us stay 6 feet apart, for all this stuff it breaks my heart. Yeah, Lord help us find a way. Lead us to a brighter day. Lead us through the nighttime. Trying to find a way to escape. Wanna party all night when this goes away. Let us together, we find a cure and a better, eradicate it forever. Let us all together. Let us unite. Bring us love. We can walk through the night. Yeah, we will get through it.
Cool. Well, welcome back. We're in the midst of conversations around what it's like to be in this COVID-19 pandemic and around the racial tensions.
With with our youth and the people that work with them, such as youth ministers and a licensed family therapist is coming on next. So, Jackie, do we have everybody still patched in?
If we do, we can go right on to our panel.
Oh, that was the lead pastor. That was the song for COVID. Please support. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. It's on his page. Definitely support him. Definitely share it. Get it out there. He's an amazing musician, and we support him. So our panel.
So kind. Yep, we can go to our panel. And I'm hoping that you guys are still on. I think we might be having a quick.
They're still on. Just hold 1 second. Keep on going.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna patch into them in just a second. But listen, you just heard. So I feel like Don Lemon right now. And, but listen, so you guys have just heard a lot of accounts from our young people who have been talking about how they feel, right? Watching the Ahmaud Arbery, watching the video, and Erica says she couldn't even bring herself to watch it, but social media was playing it so much that she just ended up seeing it anyway. Yeah. And I mean, how does that resonate a little bit with you? Did you hate seeing the video? Did you?
Yes, I did hate seeing the video. I definitely looked at it the first time just to as anyone, just to make sure it went the way that everybody said it was going and things of that sort. Not to say I disbelieved it, but I just had to prove it for myself. Watching the video, I get upset, and I am being a little bit more empathetic these years, so I cry easily. Honestly, I cannot look at anything right now just to protect my own energy, just to protect my own mental capacity for sadness and not trying to stay sad and not trying to stay depressed. I can't look at anything like some old. I love history. Telling Black movies such as Selma, The Butler, The Help. I love them all. But I was watching, hey panel, I'm going to just finish up and then we're going to go right to you. But I was watching Selma the other day, and I love Selma. And in the beginning, when they killed the boy after the night walk, I could not take, here we go. I couldn't take it. And I've watched Selma at least 10, 15, 20 times. And I watched it, and I said, oh no. I immediately bust out crying, broke down, and I thank the music companies not the music, but the movie studios for releasing this content for free. But I don't know if it's having more of a good effect or the adverse effect to keep watching when they see us. I don't think anybody's trying to see that right now because there's already so much going on out here. So
listen,
I can't do it.
And we're gonna bring in my sister who's joined, and we're back to Minister LeVar. But I will tell you, I want my white friends and my white family. They know I love them. But for Black people, you go to a movie theater and watch some of those movies, you leave the theater pretty mad. You almost don't want to see people outside your Black race after you watch some of those movies. But we want to welcome my sister Jocelyn in. Jocelyn, say something just so we can hear your voice. Can you hear us well?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me okay?
There she go. We
Yes,
got you. We
yes,
got
yes.
you.
I'm
Okay.
excited to have you on. And Javon's got a couple questions for you to start off. But LeVar, we also want to acknowledge that you're on, and we've got some great conversation we want to
For
have
all
with
of
you as well. So we can all just kind of chime in going forward.
So, as Ramon said, we have Jocelyn. You're a licensed. Tell us who you are. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Jocelyn. I am a licensed couples, marriage, and family therapist. And basically what that means is that I am trained specifically to help people in relationships. But that being said, I also see individual clients as well as families. So either way, whether I'm working with individuals or with couples or with families, I'm working with people to really help them better their relationships. And that's what I do.
Mm, okay. Minister LeVar, we know about you already, but let's just go walk into that. Like what I was saying about what do you feel about the imagery right now? Both of you guys, anyone can jump in. Like seeing that, how do you protect your energy, your mind space right now from not getting like the revenge angry, but getting fired up enough just to protest and do it the correct way?
Honestly, for me, prayer. Prayer is what helps the most for me. The other thing is that I try to make sure that I protect my time on social media and make sure that I'm being very cognizant of how much time I'm spending. For instance, I did not watch the entire George Floyd video. I saw enough to get the gist and decided that that was enough. I couldn't handle anymore. But I will say that it's not that I don't experience that sort of anger. Pastor Ray, you were describing going to see movies and coming out and being like, I'm not sure if I can hang out with anybody outside the Black race right now. And I feel that. I think we all feel that. And figuring out a way to expel that energy is really important.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with Jocelyn. You have to protect your space. You got to protect your energy. I tried my best not to watch the video, and I spend a great deal of time on social media just because we're trying to build and connect with people and, really using it to maximize on this moment. And I tried my hardest to skip past it when it was posted. But I think a part of it too is acknowledging the anger that we feel behind it. But it does us no good to not acknowledge that it exists. And I think we do a disservice, especially to our young people, when we not only tell them not to be angry, but also model not processing anger in an appropriate way. I think Jocelyn's point was, finding some way, some lens, some process to move that through so that it does not just stay in, like a powder keg. And it requires, I think, having an outlet. And, what we try to do with OLM is give young people an outlet. All right, let's turn that righteous indignation into action. Let's figure out what we can do, and use that to fuel it, so that it does come through. But Joseph, you were saying it earlier, we feel it, but you got to use that, in a positive way.
So just stemming from that, I'm glad that we started there. The next question I have is, what type of long-lasting effects or traumas could stem from the visuals and messages that the children are being exposed to through these visuals of death and just like worthlessness, like feeling like their skin and people that look like them that aren't worthy enough to like get due process? Like you're innocent until proven guilty, but these people are already getting the capital punishment before they even can get Mirandized. So like what do you think will last with these kids these days, this generation right here, moving forward from what's going on right now?
So there's not a lot that we know at this point because there haven't been that many studies about stress and things like post-traumatic stress disorder in the Black community. What we do know already is that just being Black puts you at greater risk for a series of different things, including post-traumatic stress. It's the reason why we see more hypertension in our communities. Just Black men are more likely to have high blood pressure. That doesn't come from nowhere. That's not coming just from being physically a Black person. We're not any different physically from white people, Hispanic people, anybody. But what's happening is living in a system that isn't built for us leads to these sort of medical outcomes that become problematic down the line, and we see that throughout the race. Specifically, how these videos are going to be affecting the youth later on, we don't know yet. What I would expect to see is a lot of similar symptoms to PTSD. I'd expect there to be a lot of anger that's either misplaced or not being at all expressed in a way that's helpful. I'd also expect to see a lot of people do things like lose sleep, be very frustrated with the system. People tend to be more skeptical, more paranoid. There's all sorts of things that can come out of that. And when we're working with teenagers, one of the things that's really important is balancing not only what we know to be symptoms of those sorts of situations, but also balancing it with the reality of their situation, which is that kids are seeing these things happen not only on social media, but in their own lives. And maybe not to the extent that they're seeing people die in the streets, but certainly in the ways that they interact with their school resource officers, with police officers in their own neighborhoods, and things like that.
You know, I agree. I think one of the ways that we have to counter that, and I agree 100% that, you know, the presence of mental health challenges in the lives of our people, particularly our young people, is heavy. And we again, you know, Jocelyn hit it on the head. We won't know for some time now what, you know, sort of the double impact is of having gone through COVID and this uprising all at the same time. But one of the things that we have really sort of refocused on with OLM, and I think is a way for us to counter this, is by educating ourselves. So we came up with a new 3-prong approach: educating ourselves, empowering others, and engaging community. And that first one is critical. And so I think, Jovan, to your point about movies, and I said, you know, because Apple and iTunes had the whole library of movies and documentaries that were free,
like Just
and, you know, over Juneteenth weekend. Right. And so I think, you know, part of what I spend a lot of the time watching were the documentaries that not just put the focus on the struggle of Black people, but also on the resilience and the strength of Black people. One of those was the Black Power mixtapes, which was dope, done by the Swedish film company. And you got to hear from Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton, Stokely Carmichael, and you got to hear and understand some of the arguments behind the scene of the Black Power movement. So I think a part of this is we have to take into our hands the education of ourselves. And for too long, our young people's education of Black history was left to Martin, Malcolm, and Rosa, and slavery and cotton. And there's a whole rich history that undergirds a people, and which is why the power of slavery existed. We were snatched away from that. We were snatched away from that culture. We were snatched away from that history, or to use the word that some of the right-wing folks use, that heritage. We were taken away from our heritage. And so with that comes an ignorance to who you are, to what's in you. And so I think a part of this is we've got to own even more the education of ourselves, so that as we are hit with these narratives of the realities of police brutality and systemic racism, that we are countering that with the realities of the royalty that we come from, the power, the resiliency, the grit that exists within us innately as a people, so that when our young people are faced with these choices, that you've got both of these things sort of balancing themselves out within them, and that they're able to stand and act and respond.
So Dr. Walter C. Lundy, who's on, says this: the trauma is devastating and will complicate our struggle. Mental health needs to be explored not as treatment, but as empowerment. Jocelyn, how do you feel about that comment?
I agree 100%. You know, it's interesting. Mental health as a field has moved away from what's called the medical model of mental health, which really, I mean, there are many different definitions of the medical model. But the idea is that early on, when we were looking at how we treat people with mental health issues, we treated them as if they were always biological, right? There was something wrong with your brain. There was some sort of imbalance. And then we would diagnose you, right? So you were schizophrenic, or you were bipolar, or you were depressed or anxious. And what's been happening in the last few decades in the mental health field is that we're moving away from that original medical model of understanding how we deal with issues that people have with mental health. And that means we're starting to look at not just the biological issues, not just sort of the general psychological symptoms, but also what's happening in your vicinity, in your environment that's also contributing to this. So it's not just, oh, your brain isn't producing enough dopamine, let's give you a pill so that you'll feel happy. It's going, well, what in your life could be better? What's contributing to this?
Yeah.
And so a lot of what we do now is not just ask someone about their symptoms and then give them a pill, but also ask them about what's going on in their life. In what ways are they connected? Do they have a support network? Do they have people around them that love them and care for them? And are they feeling, connected in ways that help them fight through things like that?
LeVar, so we've talked a little about this mental health piece. You as a youth minister and young adult minister, you are, well, I think we all see, as Jocelyn said, she said one of the things she has to do, the first thing she has to do, she has to pray. When you deal with the spiritual component of that, right, how do you preach God and the hope of Jesus and still have to be faced with the realities of our current day situation? Is there a way to even preach that right now with all that we're going through?
Well, there has to be a way, or else all truly is lost. So I think it does start with faith. And, I think this is now testing the church and testing the believers in that in some ways we've had a very loose leaf definition of faith in the past. Now we truly understand what it means to have faith, that you are substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, the evidence of justice not seen, the evidence of peace not seen, the evidence of righteousness not seen. So faith really has to kick in this place. The other thing is, for the believer, we got to understand and remember, God is still in control. And I don't even want to use the word still, because it's not a thing of, well, because of this. No, God is in control, period. None of this has caught him off guard. None of this has been a surprise to him. He's not he's not existing in his space like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? The creation has gone awry. None of this has caught God off guard. And so we got to understand, I think that's the first thing. But then the other part of that is now, again, the challenge to the church is, and it's so interesting, I said this yesterday on the broadcast, only a God who is strategically in control would allow this uprising to take place after the 4-month Selah that we have experienced because of COVID. If you really think about it and look at, our response to this would have been a whole lot different had we not been sitting still for the last 3 months. If we had not had to revisit faith, had to revisit belief in God outside of a building, if we hadn't had to return to prayer life and home devotions and all of those other, if we hadn't had to have ourselves built up and refined, I believe our response to this moment would have been different. But it just goes again to remind you that God is in control. He allowed this moment to come succinctly after that moment so that we would be prepared, so that our tenacity and our strength would be built up to be able to stand in faith and say, well, listen, God is in control of this, and I'm going to do my part. I'm going to stand up. My faith is not going to be a timid one. I'm not called to sit in the corner and just say, oh, well, let me pray about it, because faith without works is dead. So I'm going to become actively engaged in this fight. I'm going to post. I'm going to protest. I'm going to show up in virtual city council meetings. I'm going to register people to vote. I'm going to stand in the voting line and feed people because these Negroes going to keep the polling places down to one in Louisville for 600,000 people to vote. I'm going to take some sandwiches and some water. I'm going to figure out what my part is to do, and then I'm going to do it. And that's what faith looks like. That's what God's people look like in the midst of this moment. Anything else is a distraction. Anything else is dead faith. You know, the Bible says that faith is looking after the widows and looking after the orphans and tending. What does God require of you but to love mercy and to act justly and to live humbly with your God? This is the time for us to do that.
Right.
So I'm so glad you went there, LeVar, because as, again, being a youth minister and a young adult minister, how do you explain that God is in control to a youth who is just now anchoring their faith?
Yeah, and so that's a good question. I'll tell you why. I've been at New Macedonia for coming up on a year. And so just literally at a point, a few months in serving, I had young people who were just coming into the faith. And at that point, we shut down our buildings, and so we had to readjust. And so there are people who are mature in the faith who are still struggling with virtual ministry, virtual faith, virtual church. And so definitely young people, then I've had several conversations with young people who are still trying to get the very elementary principles of the gospel, of the faith, let alone these complex issues like dealing with systemic racism and oppression. And so one of the things that, what COVID did is it reminded us that faith and relationships with God and being a believer is all relational. Nona Jones just put out a new book yesterday, and I made reference to it, her social media, the social ministry. And she said, in the book, she says, we were called to be fishers of men, but somehow we allowed the buildings to make us keepers of the aquarium. And it thing just blew me away.
Say that again. Say that one more time.
Say that one more time. Because I and again, this is Nona Jones, her new book, Social Media, the Social Ministry. I encourage everyone who is a believer, whether you're a leader or not, if you are a believer, you need to read this because it really sets the stage for where we are going as the kingdom in the next generation. And she says, we were instructed, we were called to become fishers of men, but somewhere along the line, we allowed the buildings to make us keepers of the aquarium. We got comfortable with what it meant to be in the four walls. We got comfortable with what it meant to be on programs and schedules and ministry calendars and the business of the church. And in some ways, we forgot our call was to make disciples. And you cannot make disciples if you are not in relationship. Jesus set the stage for that. He was in relationship with all of the disciples. That's how he was able to look at Judas' crazy stuff across the table and say, bro, go ahead and do what you got to do. He knew Judas. He understood him. And so this thing now, COVID knocked us off our high horses and has challenged us to get back to the core of what the gospel in our faith is about. It is relational. God is a relational God. And so, Joseph, the roundabout answer to your question is we then create relationships with young people. We make sure to build intentional relationships with young people that share life. It's not just about checking on them to see if they read their Bible, but how you feeling? What's going on in your house? Is your mama good? How your dog? How your little goldfish that you overfed last week? Is those things still living? It's about being relational and sharing life, because through that is how God shows himself to other people through our availability for him to work through us. But if we don't show up for him to work, then they're young people and they're people that don't get to see him.
See, if we was in the church, I would have threw like a hymnal at you. The love button. I was just sitting there like, you better say that, LeVar. You better say that.
But I want to take a moment and let Jocelyn sort of echo that. Because Jocelyn, you're seeing this right in a way where you're talking to married couples, folks who are going through couple. So even there, right, there's a proponent of folks who are dealing with all sorts of anxiety or being nervous so how is there a place for spirituality? Is you try to get them through these moments that we're living in, and a place to build their faith. And does that resonate in the field that you're in, the therapeutic field?
Absolutely. So, I think a lot of people think about therapy as being sort of what you see on television, right? The sort of Freudian method of therapy, which is you sit on a couch, pardon me, my eyes are watering. You sit on a couch and the therapist sits behind you and pretends to be a blank slate. We've moved away from that. Now it's really about, we get a lot of training as therapists about how to bring ourselves into the room in an authentic way. Because just as you were saying, LeVar, that it's important that when you're building a relationship with somebody that you ask them about all areas of their life, that goldfish, their mom, their school, how's everything going? In the same way, as therapists, we're working to be less objective and to be more authentic in the room. And that means that no matter what I'm doing in the room, God's there in the room with me. And that means that I allow my clients to kind of set the tone for how much they feel God's important in their lives. I don't see just Christians, but it's always, spirituality is a huge part of how I think about connection, how I think about relationship. And so my practice reflects that because that's what I'm bringing into the room. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. You got me together. Jocelyn, for another part of that, are you, and I know you have HIPAA laws and stuff like that, but are you having to counsel people who are in relationships that this is affecting, like in-home relationships, like this moment right now, this pandemic, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matters, the deaths, and if you are counseling like even mixed interracial couples, how if you have any cases like that, could you share with us what are the tensions in that? Not don't throw out no names because you can't lose nothing. But tell us what is there. If you're seeing that this time right now is putting even more strain on relationships, are they even coming closer together because of this, or are they being pulled apart by their anxieties or by your heritage and your heritage?
So honestly, Javon, I'm seeing both. I'm seeing people that are thriving in quarantine. I think the first thing that hit was quarantine, right? And so we saw a lot of people's relationships have to shift and have to bend and flex based on new arrangements, right? It's one thing to be all lovey-dovey. Yeah, exactly. It's one thing to love somebody when they're gone 8 to 10 hours a day, and then they come home and they're just happy to see you. But it's something different when you're suddenly in this space together 24/7. Fireworks. I'm sorry, y'all.
You live in DC, don't you?
24/7. Huh?
You live in DC, don't you?
I do live in DC.
It's okay. It's okay. We understand. We all from this area. We're going to DMV. It's okay.
So
keep going, please.
Yeah. So I see it a lot. I see couples that are thriving who, suddenly have all this time and they're sort of reconnecting in a way that they weren't before, and they're being very flexible in how they arrange their time and, whether they have kids or not, like bending and adjusting to the new time. I'm also seeing couples who are finding ways to connect or feeling more disconnected with everything going on with Black Lives Matter and with everything going on with the deaths and everything. To your point, I do see interracial couples. Some of them, it's been a lot of the white member of the couple saying, hey, how can I be most, helpful, most supportive? And then my job is really just to help facilitate that conversation. I've also, and this might blow your mind a little bit, I have individual clients who are mixed race having to deal with how do I reconcile relationship with the white side of my family.
Come on.
When they're saying things about oh, he must have deserved it, or there's something that happened off tape or off video that we didn't see, or surely the cop wouldn't just do that. And they're coming to me and going, how do I start these conversations with my family where I'm feeling more and more separated from them? So again, it's all about relationship. And I see a lot of different ways in which these times are both bringing people together and making things more difficult. They're having to have more difficult conversations and confront each other in ways that they didn't before.
Yeah.
You just you drop your mic, Johnson, real quick. Just because I like that was. There you go, Johnson. There you go. Because that was really good. Because we see it, on the political side, we see it on the protest side. But just I know that I'm dealing with stuff being at home, and I'm single at this time. But I was just wondering, like, are there married couples? Like, how does this, like you said, it's easy to be in a relationship when we go to work and we don't see each other. But I don't want to see you all day, every day.
Every day. I wake up and you don't never leave.
I realize your feet stink and you was washing before I got home and stuff like that. I don't want where did this person come from? Because you can hide a couple of things about yourself from people. I just know.
It's true.
And so Amplify Network has been so gracious to just let us kind of. We've been going over time a little bit the last couple of weeks, but this is just such rich knowledge, and I think we try to use our platform to sort of just bring wisdom and knowledge to folks who I think are dealing with tough things right now in these tough times. We're going to close, but I want to ask, I think I want to sort of narrate our closing this way or draw the picture of our closing this way. And that is, so both of you all coming from the narrative that you're in and the context that you're in, LeVar, if you could speak to what is it that you would share with folks who are looking for hope, dealing with young kids or young adults, and trying to find what and how to move them forward in their faith? What kind of encouraging words would you give them? How would you share, your best practices of motivating? How would you, what's the message that you have for those people, both the young people and the folks who are working and dealing with young people at this time?
And Johnson, is that the same?
I think Johnson is sort of the same for you. You both are both spiritual. I know, Johnson, you're coming from a therapeutic place, but LeVar, you've been in this field, working pretty hard with people and their mental, psyche, and spiritual and emotional. I think for both of you, right? Like, what's that message, and what's that encouraging word, and what's the advice you give to folks, in this moment?
And I have one more thing to this. LeVar, when you finish, shout out where you at. And Jocelyn, please let people know how to get in contact with you when you finish yours as well, please. Please, because I'm going to get in contact with you because I already know. I got, we're going to find you.
Well, I think, one of the things that we talked about, how do we speak to young people that may be new in their faith? The thing I rejoice about is that God is always on the side of the oppressed. And, part of Jesus' ministry and message was that he came to set the captive free. And so in this moment where the mere existence of Black people is being questioned and annihilated in so many different ways, I want people to be encouraged to know that God is always on the side of the oppressed, and that the power and the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ is that we can be set free. Even in the midst of terrible moments like the ones that we're facing and like the ones that we've always faced. And, throughout our history as a people, God has always been on our side. And I think one of the things that has kept us as a people is that we've never lost our hope and our faith in God. I believe that was the case during the transatlantic slave trade. I believe that was the case during Jim Crow. I believe that was the case during the prison industrial complex. I believe that's the case now, that we cannot lose our hope in God. But that hope is not a passive hope. That hope requires us to wait. They that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. That waiting is not sitting in a corner and twiddling our thumbs. That waiting is serving. That waiting is being active. And so our hope is a very active hope. It's a very engaged hope that spurs us on to do, to love, to show love to our people, to educate, to empower, to engage. It is a hope that really builds us up and strengthens us to know the role that we can play in liberating our people and seeing our people liberated. This sin of racism is here because there's evil on the earth, and there's evil on the earth because sin is here. So it won't totally be eradicated until Jesus comes back and does what he's going to do. But in the meantime, there is work for us to do. And so I think you find hope in work. You find courage in work. I would encourage people to get up, find your lane, and do the work. And through that, you find hope and faith in God to hang on. As I said, I'm coming up on 1 year of serving as Minister of Youth and Young Adults at the New Macedonia Baptist Church, which is in Southeast DC. And you can follow us at tnnbc.org, on social media at mytnnbc, and also New Mass Youth. And then, of course, our two young ladies that were here earlier are part of the Our Lives Matter Teen Campaign. And you can follow us across social media platforms at OLMDC Teens 1. And I'll put it in the comment box as well. And get engaged. If you're looking for a place to get engaged, we'd love for you to come and run alongside these giants of young people.
Thank you, LeVar. So, oh my God. Wow. Jocelyn.
How am I supposed to follow that?
I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do. But mix something up real quick and just let it flow.
Hey, you're brilliant.
I got you.
You're both so brilliant.
Yeah, you got it, Queen.
I got you. What would I tell people? I think self-care is really important. And I'm going to tell you that despite the fact that self-care has become such a big buzzword these days, it's really important to understand that self-care comes in at least two different formats. There are things you do to feel good, and there are things you do to do good. And it's important that you're doing both. So feel good means taking a bubble bath, going to hang out with friends, going to, I don't know, take care of yourself, right? Get your locks retwisted, get your nails done, whatever it is that makes you feel good. And then there are the things that help you do good. So things like taking all those emotions, all that energy, and placing it somewhere. You know, I think a lot of times when we talk about self-care, people often assume that what we're talking about is just those things that make you feel good. But self-care is important in just as many other ways. For instance, self-care is doing your taxes, getting those done on time, you know, being able to pay the bills and get those things organized. All of that helps increase your quality of life because it's one less thing that you're worrying about. And so it's really important that when we're faced with things like COVID-19 or systemic racism, that we're including in our self-care some way of channeling the emotions and worries and concerns that come from those things, whether that's writing to your congressman or whether that's going out and marching or donating to Black Lives Matter or other movements, whether that's volunteering with the poor. All of these things actually count as self-care, and it's really important that you engage in them. The other thing I would say is that it's really important to find support, whether that's seeing someone like me, who's a professional therapist, but more ideally, seeing someone that's in your community, people that you know and love and trust, who will be able to support you and reflect your feelings back to you. The worst thing that you can do in these sorts of situations is respond to a friend or to a loved one in a way that denies their experience. And right now, so many people are feeling fired up because for the first time in a long time, we're feeling like other people, specifically white people, are acknowledging and supporting our experience. They're saying, yes, we're seeing what you're seeing. And I want everybody to take home the message that that feeling that you get, where you're feeling supported and loved and acknowledged, is the same thing you can do on a one-to-one person basis in your community with your family and friends. So I would encourage you to find those people, but also be those people in your lives.
And tell them how to find you.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. So I practice at a place called Emily Cook Therapy. It's in Bethesda, Maryland. You can catch us on emilycooktherapy.com. You can also email me personally at jocelyn@emilycooktherapy.com, and I will drop all of my contact information in the comments.
Yeah, my good friend Dr. Walter C. Lundy says I need a 30-minute session. So you might already have your first client. Listen, I cannot tell you all how just honored we are to start off both with the youth, both Erica and Diamond, who were absolutely amazing, and then to just, finish it off with the brilliant minds of two brilliant, and I will have to say, two brilliant Black beautiful, awesome people, a king and a queen in your own right. And so I am grateful for your conversation. I mean, Javon and I both, we're energy people, and the energy tonight has just been so awesome, so
I'm
awesome,
a
so
little
awesome.
sated. I'm just sitting here like I'm groovy. Like I feel like I'm just like I like definitely listen to the kids, but then to hear you guys so eloquently um talk about give pointers and give your advice. I mean, I love to listen to people talk, but y'all just got y'all make love to my ear, and I'm not mad about it. Let me tell you that much. I'm not mad about it.
But it
We're
does
gonna get out
something.
of
It
here.
does something to the soul, though.
It
It does
does.
It
something to the
does.
soul.
It
You
does.
you feel that
This was
vibe and that energy.
self care for
Yeah,
me today. This was
yeah,
self care.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm honored to have been a
Um,
part of it.
yeah.
yeah, we're
Same
honored
here.
to have you. Just a couple of house things that we do. We want to just acknowledge Amplify Network. If you're watching, you are definitely watching us some kind of way through Amplify Network, and join them every morning. They bring a prayer at 6 a.m. Jackie and Terrence are amazing people. Hats
Amazing.
off to them for the
Amazing.
movement that they've started and what they're
Amazing.
doing and amplifying our voices to the larger community. And so without them, we would not be able to do as much as we do. And so
Look,
we're grateful.
for joking, for not pulling the plug when we go overtime. We love you. We love you. We love. Look, I take. I don't take it lightly. I love you. I
So
love
make
you.
sure you like the Amplify Network page if you're watching with us. If you're watching, go and follow the Encounter the Well page. You see our website down there at the bottom, www.encounterthewell.org. You can also follow us on our social media at Encounter the Well on Facebook and at Encounter the Well on Instagram. So all of your social media people, that is where you can find us. And if you'd like to partner with us and invest in us, we're going to be launching a fundraiser pretty soon that we're going to share with you more about in the coming weeks. But as of right now, you see that website, you can go to the website. There's the last tab is a giving tab. Pray about it. Whatever God puts in your heart to give, we ask that you give that generously. If you want to text to give, you can text the numbers 84321. And you just text any amount. So if you want to text $100 to 84321, there you go. You want to text $2 to 84321 or $5,000 to 84321. God is moving, and we expect God to move. And so we're expecting God for big things in this next couple of seasons. Listen, again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Jocelyn, we pray that you have a great night. Share this with as many people as you would like. LeVar, Minister LeVar, we're just grateful for you and your ministry. I got to come over there and meet you, brother, over in New Macedonia when we get back to having in-live services. But LeVar has been doing some great things online. He's always putting flyers. Listen, he is a person who is an activist in his own right and always out there in the community doing great things. Two extraordinary people.
And he's doing Critical Conversations. Please check his Critical Conversations #1, and then I think you're going to follow up too. So please, and I mean, it
July
blessed me
15th.
yesterday. It blessed me just watching him. I mean, they would drop. You think we dropped some seeds here? They was just planting whole fields over there. But yeah. Thank you so much. I hope that didn't sound like backwards racism. You know, I just took it straight back to sharecropping. I'm tired.
You can follow me at I am Ray Jackson. I am RAI Jackson on all of my most of my social media platforms, except here on Facebook. I'm just Ramon RAIMON Jackson, and you can follow JoJo.
You and y'all know me. We love you guys. We love you. We love you. You can follow me at Javon Anthony Pender on Facebook. Don't go to Instagram. I'm not on there. Don't go nowhere else. We love you guys. Please have a great night rest. We pray that God watches over your houses and we keep you in perfect peace until we meet again. We love you. Have a great night. We're out of here. Mwah.
Mwah.
Peace.
Peace.